Hi, everybody. This is Craig Hardesty with Out on Film. And I want to thank you all for coming and joining us for another one of our in conversations with the filmmakers in the shorts block of Transfabulous, where we here at Out on Film are celebrating our own queer joy and spreading queer propaganda wherever we can. So I want to welcome both of you to Out on Film and this Transfabulous Shorts program. And let me go ahead and let you both introduce yourselves and tell us in your words just what you want us to know about your short film. Um, Shayan, I'll start with you.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. My name is Shayan. I'm an Iranian filmmaker based in Los Angeles, and my film is Always Azizam, and this will actually be our first ever screening of it, so we're very excited.
What?
Yeah, this was a movie that I made in collaboration with Puya Mohseni, who is the star. She's the EP, and also the original story was something that she came up with, and
And I will say a favorite here at Out on Film. I'll just say.
I mean, also favorite here, you
Okay.
know. No, she's amazing. This project really was the result of she came to me and she had seen so many other projects and just said that I want to make something with you. And she pitched me the idea of this story, and obviously it was a story that she was saying that we've never had before, a story with a Iranian trans woman as the lead. That's a story that is a romantic story, something that is a proper representation. It's not a representation that's gonna, as she said, like take us two steps back. And it's been pretty much like a collaboration between the two of us the whole way, and it's something we're very proud of, and we're excited to be able to screen it and finally show the world this little project.
Excellent. Excellent. And we're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Ian.
Hi, I'm Ian. I am the writer, one of the producers and lead actress for Clementine. Happy to be here. Unlike Cheyenne, we're nearing towards the end of our film festival route, and it's an honor to have Out on Film, be one of our closers. And this film came about from a monologue that I had written back in 2020 for this acting class, and this story just lingered with me for a long time afterwards. And I was like, I felt this urge and need to tell the story. And Sally, our director, had reached out to me directly to work on something together because she wanted to do more narrative work. And I told her the story, and she was like, she's down, let's do it. And we shot it in 2022 and finished it in June 2024. And it's, a story that's inspired by my own and, conversations that I've had with like my trans sisters and siblings. And it's one that I've never seen represented in media before, which is one of the bigger motivations of wanting to make this film happen, despite having no filmmaking background whatsoever. I really jumped off the ledge with this one, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And we're just going for it. But thankfully, I had an amazing team, to like help and support and learn from. But I just really hope that with this film, that my sisters can see themselves in it, that people who have a complicated relationship with themselves know that it's okay to like not be okay, and that we're all on our own path and can go at our own pace, and our life is, for ours to take.
Well, and I think so. And I think building on what both of you just said about your films, a lot of stuff that we talk about at Out on Film when we're programming and looking at films and kind of, really kind of championing queer filmmakers is, we want to take back our narratives. Um, but I think in this block, all of you like so own the narrative that from an audience perspective, it's kind of very empowering and very exhilarating to see filmmakers that we're just owning our experience and owning the narrative. So, as exhilarating as it is and empowering for us as an audience, what's it like for you as a filmmaker to really unapologetically own the narrative?
I'll say that, I mean, for me, in the Iranian culture, this is still considered a very taboo
Yeah.
topic, and it's something that there's very little discussions about it. And for us, it was about how can we tell a story that's going to really impact especially kind of like the previous generation, because I feel like our generation, it's a little bit more like, we're in the conversation about it, but our parents and grandparents, they don't quite have the language or the understanding. And so part of it was we have to be able to tell a story authentically and be able to, like you said, empower it and own it and say, like, this is the reality of our world. This is what we want in the world. And use that as a way to be able to inform people, to be able to really change that dialogue and really try to help the next generation, especially, like I said, it's a universal story,
Right.
but even more specifically in the Iranian culture, it's still something that we have a lot of work to do. And so that was our goal, was to be able to start that conversation and hopefully make an impact with, one film can have a lot of impact. It could really just open up someone's mind. And so that was the goal from the start.
Yeah.
Um, do you mind repeating the question again?
No,
Sorry.
it's just what it is it as you're the writer and you're making this film, I would say for an audience, the way that you all own the narrative and the story, and it's about our community and about how we live and what we do. How is that for you as a filmmaker and an actor and a writer?
Yeah, I mean, it's really empowering, but also terrifying at the same time, because like a lot of us, especially for a lot of trans filmmakers, a lot of us are like the first doing the things that we're doing because, right now there really isn't like much like trans history, like in film or cinema whatsoever. And so it's been really, really cool, just kind of like making space for ourselves and not waiting for Hollywood or the executives to give us that opportunity, And it's really empowering seeing like not just like reflecting on myself, but also like my fellow other like trans filmmakers doing their thing and just making it happen. It's really, and I hope that like, it gives others the permission, to pursue and go after what they want to do and tell the stories that way they want to tell too. And not just like for the future, but also like present, filmmakers and whatnot. So, yeah.
I'm always curious, Shan, there's something that Puya does so well, and she did it in See You Then. I haven't did it in this. She's got that look when it's about disclosure, and she's like, I so don't want to do this. Kind of describe that moment. She always has that. It's just a brilliant piece of film. She just can do it just with one look. That whole like, I am not going through this.
Yeah, she's amazing. I This was our first time working together, and I was just so blown away by her on set. Not just the level of professionalism, not just the work ethic, but we had a dynamic where we instantly on set didn't need to even communicate. And I kind of, this is her story, so I felt like myself as kind of almost like the vessel for the story, and I kind of wanted her to take the lead on that. And on set, I was almost taking a back seat and just watching her do her work, and like the look that you're talking about, it's so I've seen it both in real life and
Yeah.
also to see it on film. It's both so natural and it's also it affects you, like I've obviously watched the movie because I edited it a million times, and every time I watched it, it just, you never get tired of it. You always like watch these like very subtle things she's doing, these very like small facial, expressions. And that moment especially, I think it's the culmination of, she's gone through this for so many years and she's had such an amazing story in life. And I think she was just drawing from all of that. And when she gives that look, you know what that means. You know all the weight behind it. And especially, I mean, also the moment where she has the very emotional moment
Yeah.
during the film. Um, I mean, I'm telling you, like I would, like everyone was almost like emotional on set. We were all like crying, and she was able to do that and recreate that multiple times in a row without, we would cut, she's back to normal, and then like we go again and she's right in it again. So I think it's just to her credit. I can't take credit for that. I'll just say that like I was just sitting back and going, wow, this is incredible. And she's just, yeah, she's on a different caliber, I feel like, and it's one of those people who there will be an Oscar, speech in the
Right.
future, and we'll all be like, wow, I knew
Yeah.
this person.
We
So
knew, we saw this coming.
yes, exactly. And no one's surprised by
Right.
that.
I think one of the things that over the years I been involved in this for a long time, and I know that we will always have coming out stories. There will always be transition stories. One of the things that struck me with all of the films in this block, and both of your films in particular, is these are more stories about becoming, and in your character, it's really really about her becoming who she is and who she wants to be and who she thinks she is, which is very different. And you do that so well throughout, and the other characters, as all of you are looking at how you are becoming, how it talk a little bit about as a narrative choice, kind of how that came to be.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I just felt like this, I mean, people's experiences are so different from one another, and we often get so many coming out stories of like young teenagers and youth and all that, and those are important stories to tell, but our experiences like go beyond that so
Right.
much more, and we're constantly evolving and blooming as as queer people, as trans people, especially after we've lived our lives so long, like behind closed doors or masking or projecting ideas of who we think we should be. And so, for my character Lee, I consider myself a late bloomer, and so I am, an actress never reveals her age, but like I feel like I'm now just really starting to feel like, just know I'm a 90s baby. So like I now am just feeling really grounded within myself and in myself, and like have a sec sense of security. But it took a while to get there, in comparison to like our cis and hetero, counterparts and whatnot. But this story, it's like, I just felt like, with a lot of the transition stories that we've seen, it's always like a easy point A to point B kind of situation, but it's not always like that. It can be very messy, it can be very gray and uncertain and full of confusion, and you know, and it was just something that I was experiencing, and I was like, I feel like other people need to see this story, and this can happen. People transition at in different decades of their lives, and it's not, yeah, and it's just like, yeah, yeah, it's just one of the million stories that, of the trans experience. So yeah.
And then Cheyenne, yours is what our families can become, what our relationships can be and become. When you tell a story of what you can become, what's that like for you as the filmmaker as you explore what all of this means, both to the narrative and to what you're saying to the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think the power of what we do is that we can write a world or a reality that we want to live in. Like we can write whatever we want, and we get to choose when we have a blank canvas, we can write any story and have any ending that we want. And I think one of the things Puya and I kept talking about was that there are a lot of stories that unfortunately, I mean, every story has its own place, but there's a lot of stories that have trauma or a sad ending or something like that. And we really wanted to make sure that our story was something that, the mom's reaction to hearing this, right? They could have gone anywhere. It could have been the mom could have rejected the story, and then it could have ended on a sad note and no
Right.
acceptance. But part of that is we were like, we want to live in a world where she would react this way. We want to change this family dynamic and what it could be. And that was the idea, was that in our world, which absolutely could be our reality, an Iranian mom could be very accepting of this relationship and embrace it. And so that's what we want the families to look like. That's what we want every family to look like. And regardless of, again, it's not just an Iranian story, it's a universal story. We want everyone just to be accepting of people and allow us to just live, And so that idea was the basis for it, and we really tried to through the performance and through the story, try to be like, this, we want to live in this reality, and this is our reality. And hopefully, if enough people watch stories like this, that becomes our reality. And I think that's what we can do through any story that we want to see become the truth. We just keep telling those stories until it's normalized. And that's how you can do it.
And when you think, when as we are kind of, we look at how we are, I will just say we are embracing queer joy, which I think both of your films really do. We are all about spreading queer propaganda. Tell us a little bit from each of your perspectives how what queer propaganda you want to keep spreading. Ian, we'll start with you.
Kind of going off or picking back off Cheyenne's intention behind the film of creating the world that they want to live in, the reality we want to experience. I think more depictions of that, in regards to queer propaganda, I think there's something really powerful about projecting the image and like making it into reality, and it's just manifesting into our actual realities. There's something really powerful about that. And that's actually something I've been adopting into my present and future work. Um, and so yeah, when it comes to queer propaganda, more visualizations of the world that we want to live in and deserve to live in, especially right now. So,
Yeah, I think Ian said perfectly. Yeah, I think it's really just the propaganda is just more so we want to see more of these stories, and we want to see it in like for us, it was a matter of what's a first that hasn't been done before, and specifically like within our culture, or even just it's smaller things. Like for example, I have a scene takes place in a Halloween party, and there's no reason for that to be there. There's no story narrative reason for it, but it was purely because I thought I have never like this still image of this, Iranian guy in a Wolverine costume and this Iranian trans woman together at a party dressed up in that setting. I've never seen that. I've never seen that on film. I've never even seen a Halloween scene with like two Iranians in it, let alone, this story. And so the propaganda is just let's do the things that have never been done before just to make it seem like, oh wow, that's something relatable that someone who is completely outside of the experience looks at it and goes, oh, I relate to that. Like that's something I've done and that seems fun. Oh, like it's all about normalizing and humanizing. And that's I think the propaganda is just to make it so that we like the same things. We have the same, we enjoy the same experiences and activities. And so the more that's put out there, even like I said, for me, it was just like it was purely like I want to see a Halloween scene. And now we have it. And now forever we'll have a scene like that. And I hope it inspires future propaganda, but that's what it is.
Excellent. I do want to say, as Andrew pointed out, the times that we are in, I do want to acknowledge this is a really, really strong, program of trans theme shorts and Transfabulous. I do want to acknowledge, the world that we want to live in. We also want to live in a world where grief is equal, and we do have a time right now where we have some kind of national mourning for, I would just say, a generic white guy, and not paying attention to the tragic numbers of trans women, particularly trans women of color, who are brutally murdered constantly at an alarming rate. And I do want to just acknowledge that this is happening in our community, and we need to grieve and talk about it. I do want to say, Shayan, you end your film with a dedication to the lovers who came before us. I want to give you the last word, and I want you to be able to take a moment and honor them.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the movie is dedicated, it says to the courageous lovers who came before us. And the idea is that we are obviously standing on the shoulders of so many people who allowed us right now, today, to still, it's still not necessarily an easy experience. And also, as someone who is not trans, I obviously can't speak to the experience. And it's something that Puya and I spoke about of my contribution to this project is she had to convince me to do it because initially I wasn't sure if I am the right person to be able to do a project like this. But what she told me is that if it's between this project not existing and you doing it so it exists, I'd rather it exists because it's going to help push us forward. And that was what ultimately convinced me to do it, even though I had my own hesitations about it. But I think in doing that, we've looked at how it is still, you know, difficult, but it because of all the people who came before us, it has made it easier for the next generation. Hopefully, it'll be much easier for the next generation, even though what we're going through right now, it seems like it's getting almost worse, not better. But if you find your own community and you're still within your safe spaces, it is today much easier compared to before because of that. And so we just wanted to acknowledge all the people that came before us who allowed that to happen so that, even for me as someone who considers himself queer, to be able to have, in this day, still feel comfortable enough to be able to like speak about it to people as opposed to maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would not be possible. And so I think it was just important to us to be able to do that and acknowledge it because, the hope is that every generation will make it better for the next generation. And hopefully through our filmmaking, we make it easier for the next people because I think being able to just see that it has such an impact. And I spoke to many, many kids who were telling me that, for them, the first time, for example, one girl told me that like her ability to even know that she's trans is through watching a movie and realizing that that exists and it clicked for her. And that was so powerful for me to say that like, oh, that's how we can make an impact. And so, yeah, that dedication is there. And I think that will always be there regardless of the project of like, we owe so much to those who came before us. And we can hope that we leave that same impact moving forward.
And I think that's a beautiful note to end on. I want to thank you both. Transfabulous screens at Out on Film on Sunday, September 28th at noon, and then drops virtually after that. So you have plenty of opportunity to see these films in a really transfabulous shorts package. Shayan, Ian, thank you both very much for joining us. And thank all of you for listening. And go forth and embrace your queer joy and spread as much queer propaganda as you can. Thank you all very much.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Bye.